The Mimic was not present from the very beginning of the FNAF timeline, which starts with events like founding of the Fredbear's Family Diner in early 1970s. Instead, it was created later and retroactively integrated into the lore through newer games and books. We are gonna check its timeline placement and evidence addressing whether it was always present. As you know, the Mimic was created by Edwin Murray in the late 1970s to take care of his son David, and the endoskeleton was programmed to mimic human behavior, learning from David's actions. The story suggests Edwin started his company in the early 1970s. The Mimic was developed after Fiona's death, likely around 1973 to 1976. Based on David's age, born 1969-ish, as per fan theories on Reddit, this places the Mimic's creation after the founding of Fredbear's Family Diner in 1970, but before the events of Five Nights at Freddy's 1983. So the Mimic was not present at the absolute start of the FNAF timeline during the earliest days of Fredbear's singing show or the founding of the Fazbear Entertainment. Its creation is a specific event tied to Edwin Murray's life and his work with Fazbear Entertainment. After David's death in a car accident around 1974 to 1976, Edwin, overwhelmed by grief, violently attacked Mimic while it was mimicking David. This outburst imprinted Edwin's rage on the Mimic's AI, causing it to adapt violent behavior. Tales from the Pizzaplex epilogues and Secret of the Mimic suggests this event turned the Mimic into a ruthless, sadistic serial killer. Some theories propose the Mimic witnessed William Afton's murders, for example in the Missing Children incident, or twisted game of hide and seek, further corrupting its programming. This is supported by its behavior in the Tales from the Pizzaplex epilogues, where it lures people to their deaths, and in Help Wanted Pizza Party minigame, where the Mimic recreates Afton's murders. The Mimic's violent nature emerged shortly after its creation, but there's no evidence it was active as a villain during the earliest FNAF events. Its role as an antagonist developed later, likely after the initial Fazbear Entertainment establishment. If you talk a little about the Mimic in Security Breach Rune, which is set post-2035, the Mimic reappears as the main antagonist in the Security Breach Ruin DLC, set decades later, likely post-2035, based on timeline clues from FNAF 3 and Help Wanted. It's trapped in a sinkhole under the Pizzaplex, using Gregory's voice to deceive Cassie into freeing it. File names in the rune, for example Grimmick and Old Endo, and its animation suggest it's the same entity from Secret of the Mimic. The Mimic demonstrates advanced deception, mimicking voices and disguising itself in costumes to lure victims, consistent with its programming and corrupted behavior from the 1970s. Its presence under the Pizzaplex implies that their entertainment recovered it at some point after 1979 and stored it, possibly for further development or containment. There's a theory about the Mimic as Glitch Trap or Burn Trap. There have been suggestions from the fans that Mimic is connected to Glitch Trap from Help Wanted and Burn Trap from Security Breach. In Help Wanted's Pizza Party minigame, Glitch Trap recreates Afton's murders, mirroring Mimic's behavior in the Tales from the Pizzaplex epilogues. File animations in Ruin link the Mimic to Glamrock Endo models, suggesting it influenced later animatronics. Additionally, the bad ending of the Secret of the Mimic aligns with the Pizza Party ending, hinting at Glitch Trap connection. This connection is not definitely confirmed. The Mimic's actions in Ruin and Secret of the Mimic focus on its own AI-driven violence rather than Afton's supernatural influence. Some argue the Mimic is a distinct entity with its violence stemming from Edwin's outburst and learned behavior rather than Afton's soul or agony. If the Mimic is Glitch Trap/Burn Trap, it could have had a subtle presence in the digital realm or later animatronics, but this would still place its active role long after the early timeline events. It does not suggest it was always present in the physical or narrative sense. Absence in early FNAF games. The Mimic does not appear in FNAF 1-4, Sister Location or Pizzeria Simulator, which covered the 1980s to early 2000s. These games focus on William Afton, the murdered children and possessed animatronics like Freddy, Bonnie and the Puppet. The Mimic's absence in Pizzeria Simulator is noted in fan theory, suggesting it was not yet recovered or active during these events. The Mimic was first introduced in Tales from the Pizzaplex 2020-2023, long after the original game 2014-2018. Its prominence in Rune and Secret of the Mimic 2025 indicates it was woven into the game timeline later, possibly to expand the lore beyond William Afton. The absence of Mimic references in early games support this. While Scott Afton may have planned the Mimic's role during the Tales from the Pizzaplex era, it was not a factor in the original game's narrative. Its presence in the timeline is retroactive, with Secret of the Mimic establishing its origins in 1979, but not implying it was active throughout the entire franchise. Conclusion is that the Mimic was not always present in FNAF's timeline. It was around in the late 1970s, before being contained and dormant until its reappearance in Security Breach Rune, which is post-2035. Evidence from Tales from the Pizzaplex, Rune and Secret of the Mimic confirms its original role, but its absence in early games indicates it was not a constant presence. Theories linking it to glitch trap, burn trap suggest a possible digital or latent influence, but this is speculative and still places its major activity later in the timeline. The Mimic story was likely planned as an expansion of the lore rather than retcon, but its integration into the games is a recent development, not a foundational element of the original FNAF narrative.